Happy Veterans Day and welcome to the 10th race of the season for the Elite Racing League MegaDriver86 series. We're getting ready to go racing at Michigan International Raceway, the next to last stop of the regular season. Points are close, the battling is going to be tough here today, and we're in for 75 laps of action. Tonight I'm being joined for the first time here in the commentator's booth, Logan Brakey. And Logan, you said coming into this, you have a little bit of experience at Michigan. What are these drivers going to be facing?
Happy Veterans Day, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be here, Seth. As you mentioned, I've got a little bit of experience driving these B cars around this tricky 2-mile circuit here in Michigan. From what we saw in practice, looks like the problem spot's going to be turn 2. Guys seem to be getting a little free off that corner there and have trouble holding on to the cars. And based off of the experience I have, that seems to be the issues going into today's race.
Another issue that I saw was coming off of turn 4. These drivers, they can use, it looks like, 3 grooves in the corners. There's about 5 grooves on the track, but the lower 3 grooves is about where they seem the most comfortable. But it seems like if you just barely step over the cushion of that 3rd groove coming out of turn 4, you're going to end up spinning out. As we also saw, and we're assuming it was mock Q runs, but a lot of speeds really picked up at the close of the practice session.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of guys were actually comfortable with how free the car might have felt in the corners there. We saw a lot of guys, as you said, late in the session, really push the car through the corner. And a lot of guys were actually able to maintain some pretty good speed right on that bottom, hugging that yellow line all the way through the corner and let it track right up against the wall there off of 2 and 4. So it'll be interesting to see what qualifying tells us.
It's been a while since we've actually broadcasted a speedway race here for Elite Racing League. Of course, 2 weeks ago, we were supposed to bring you guys Chicagoland, but we had some software problems. We weren't actually able to bring that broadcast out. Chad Frankenfield was the winner of that event. But, coming into this race and looking forward to Daytona, the last opportunity for drivers to make their way into the playoffs, we've got some really close battling as far as the points are concerned for the 14 playoff positions. Now, at this point, we already know Frankenfield, Riggs, Campbell, Tooker, Player, and Adams. They look like they're going to be locked in via wins. I would assume, based on where they are ahead of the cut line, Ethan Burrell, Jared Rexing, Joshua Clark, Andrew Rucker, I think they're safe. But then you get down to around 11th, and that's where it gets interesting. And a lot of the names that I'm seeing here are names that we saw up near the top of the leaderboard in practice.
Yeah, a lot of the names you mentioned, I'd definitely say Ethan and Jared are pretty comfortably seated, in a postseason chase spot, and as well as Joshua and Andrew. However, they still need to be cautious here. As you said, this is the second to last race of the regular season. So if something happens to him here early today, it could definitely affect how they have to race next week for sure, just to make sure they solidify a spot in the postseason.
The drivers that we'll be keeping tabs on during the course of this race, above and below the cut line. You got Ethan Reasoner. He's 11th right now as far as the playoff grid goes. He's 10 points ahead of the cut line. Rishav Kosla is 5 points ahead of the cut line. Stephen Mago only 1 meager point ahead of Tate Lytle. Tate Lytle right now is the man on the hot seat. He is the cutoff line driver, the guy that would get the last spot via points in the playoffs. But he's got some hungry drivers behind him. Dallas Myhan, 9 points out. Alex Belvance, he is 13 points back. Vincent Isabella, 15 out. And Michael Goodman, Daniel Leniger, 19 points back. But we also have to bear in mind the guys that we're mentioning, as well as maybe some other ones that we're not talking about that are down there in the points but have made the minimal number of starts. If they pull out a surprise win here today, they could find themselves in the playoffs heading into Daytona.
Yeah, those guys outside the cut line are down, but they are most certainly not out. And I expect to see, from the guys that are kind of just sitting right on that cut line, maybe not so much aggressive racing, as I don't see this as a must-win race. They're in the postseason right now. So I expect to see maybe a little bit of points racing from the guys, maybe 11th on back to 14th. And then obviously the guys that are outside looking in, they do need to be a little more aggressive here with just 2 races left. But going into Daytona, after this week, that's anybody's game that's outside looking in. So it's going to be an interesting race here for sure.
Absolutely. Now, we know that we've been seeing drivers have some issues here during practice, but we've also seen drivers be able to utilize the multiple groups and make passes. So, with that being said, we have to kind of entertain the idea that we could have the possibility of green flag pit stops during the course of this race and maybe see this race come down to fuel mileage. It's a 2 mile speedway and it's 75 laps in length. So, with that being said, do you think that maybe somewhere down there, a Michael Goodman, a Damian Leniger might be looking at the big picture further on down the road towards the end of the race of maybe trying to utilize a fuel strategy to sneak out a victory?
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely. If you're back that far in the point standings, and you're looking at almost a must-win situation to get yourself in, you're absolutely going to play with the idea of maybe, can I stretch this on fuel? Can I make a gamble and have it pay off to get me into that postseason? As you know, going late into this race, if the run runs late into the race and guys end up trying to push it and miscalculate on fuel mileage and end up running out, or they pit at a poorly timed point in the race, that could be detrimental to both guys looking outside looking in and guys that are already locked into it or are sitting in a postseason spot.
Two guys that I could also see maybe risking something like that, Ethan Burrell and Jared Rexing. Because we mentioned they come into this race. Right now, Ethan is 82 points ahead of the cut line and Jared Rexing 53. And one thing that a lot of these guys that at this point look like they're in pretty good shape to make it into the postseason, they're looking for playoff points. And victories get you playoff points. Frankenfield, Tyler Riggs, Jared Campbell, they've been racking them up with their victories. So if you're Ethan Burrell, you're looking, okay, I'm 82 points ahead of the cut line. I can take a risk here. I'm more than likely going to have still a good point situation going into Daytona. Maybe I'll go outside the box and try and pick up a victory and try and even myself with some of those other guys that have gotten a win this season.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the race to try and play that card. That's not really something I would risk doing at Daytona. It's a good chance to do it because as you know, those chase points are oh so valuable. And even for like you said, for the guys that already have wins, the top six, playing it safe is always an okay thing to do. But if you're in position, why not try and go for that win and get yourself an extra couple points for the postseason?
So we're looking here at the drivers getting ready to grid themselves on pit road. You can see this is the current pole sitter, the guy that we mentioned coming into this race probably with the biggest spotlight, the final playoff spot, Tate Lytle. So he's going to have good starting track position at least here for the start of the race alongside of two-time winner Jared Campbell. So maybe track position is going to be an important thing here today. I know that, and people have known this. I've mentioned this numerous times on past broadcasts. My knowledge is only based on NR 2003 physics, but I do know that at these big speedways, if you're running behind another race car, it's going to make your car handle a lot worse. It's going to be a lot tighter. And so being out in clean air, you got to think that's going to help the handling of Tate Lytle, and maybe he can keep his car out in front for a majority of this race.
Yeah, exactly, Seth. The dirty air here is just going to be absolute murder, especially if you're in the middle of the pack. Might be able to run kind of the race you want to run if you're a little further back, hang out, although I don't recommend it as this is only 75 laps. But yeah, dirty air is going to be a huge factor today. The guys up front are going to have the advantage tenfold. And real quick, want to point out too, if we look at the comparison in practice times and qualifying times, we saw 4 guys run 38.6s in practice. Only 1 guy ran a 38.6 in qualifying, and that's our pole setter, Tate Lytle.
That's really surprising too, because I thought we were going to see maybe 6-7 guys hit the 36s in qualifying. It might have been the fact that they were in a mock Q run. It could also have been the fact that we could have possibly had a cloud coming overhead at the last moment of practice. But we're getting ready to go green. 75 laps of racing here at Michigan. Tate Lytle, Jared Campbell, Ford Mustang front row is going to bring us down. And we are green flag racing in the Green Hills.
Not sure what exactly went on that. So go ahead, Seth.
I was just going to say, Tate Lytle getting out to a quick lead by about 2 car lengths, but they're 3 wide further back.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a shuffle there coming right to the start-finish line about mid-pack. I'm not sure exactly what went on there. Somebody looks like maybe they might have been in the incorrect starting position or starting lane. Everything seems to have sorted itself out, though, as we come around to complete the first lap here.
They were about 3 wide. They're going into 3, settled it out to about double wide. Good racing for second place, though. That's Joey Bailey looking to the inside on Campbell. Frankenfield up the outside. Big run out of turn 2, trying to get to the right rear quarter panel of the 31 down the back straightaway.
And these opening laps are the time to try moves like that, Seth. The car is going to have a little more grip than it will later in the run. Why not be aggressive? As we talked about early before the show here, that track position is going to be oh so important. Now's the time to be aggressive, if any.
And Lutz had 2 tires right down there on the yellow line, trying to run the extreme inside line of 3 and 4. And yeah, another reason why you'd want to be aggressive early on is if this thing does go into a long green flag run, the field's going to get spread out. This is the closest you're going to be to your competitor, so you want to make the most of it.
We talked about those guys outside of the cutoff looking in, and one of them was Michael Goodman. He is already on pit road. Not sure what the issue is there. We'll have to go back and take a look. It might have been that start that I was mentioning earlier.
He's currently in his pit stall taking service, so maybe a restart violation or something. As Tate Lytle continues to show the way, the best battle right now is going on for around the second position. That's where you got a 4-car train: Jared Campbell, Chad Frankenfield, Joey Bailey, and Ryan Lutz.
Going back real quick to the issue with Michael Goodman, it looks like it might have been an admin mistake there, as I'm not exactly sure. If judging by what I'm seeing the first couple of laps, it looks like everything was pretty within the realms of the rules there. I'm not sure what might have caused that black flag to have been applied there.
Gonna have a couple of the drivers coming into this that are battling for the points to be able to get into the playoffs, and a couple of them are up here towards the front. Damian Leniger, 19 points outside the cut line in 6th. A couple cars behind him, Ethan Reason, are currently 10 points to the good inside the grid. And boy, Joey Bailey, Chad Frankenfield, and Jared Campbell, they keep wanting to take it 3 wide into the corner.
Yeah, and I mean, if the car's still got grip, why not? We saw it late. We saw it in practice, too. A couple guys were out there running a few laps consecutively there, and they still seem to be able to make it work on the bottom, and that's what we're seeing here right now, judging by the way these guys are racing. 3 wide going into turn 3 here.
You had Jared Campbell up there getting some draft from Joey Bailey. Ryan Lutz stuck Frankenfield in the middle 3 wide, and I saw a classic move that you do at these speedways. Ooh, little contact there between Frankenfield and Lutz. Little side draft. But I saw Campbell do a little side draft as well, and he got loose off the corner trying to do it. So there's a lot of air moving around these race cars.
Well, and that's the risk you take, too. When you get up alongside one of these cars, Seth, on the right rear corner panel like we just saw there, it wants to suck the inside car around, and it really upsets the handling. It's annoying when you're the driver. Oh, we got a car on the inside. Looks like he's going to hang on to it here. Looks like that was another...
There was contact there or not. Yeah. That was weird.
I think that was another attempt at getting a side draft there from Campbell.
Going to drop back outside the top 15. He's actually going to drop outside the top 20. That's another thing about Michigan that people might not realize is it's a momentum track. You got to basically keep your foot in the throttle. You cannot lift, or else you're going to have a lot of cars going by you.
Yeah, it looks like it was just a case of, he looks like he got a little loose off of 2 there, and he tried to slide up to close the door and keep himself from losing spots, and little contact was made between him and Ryan Lutz. So looks like it was just a racing deal there, but it's certainly going to hurt Campbell here for the time being.
He's currently slotted now back in the 20th position is Campbell. As we're watching this battle for second, another driver that kind of benefited from everyone checking up with the 31 going to the inside was Levi Zelensky. It's been a while since we've actually seen Zelensky in a race, sporting that IK9 colors on his number 97 Supra. Right now battling with Ryan Lutz for the 4th position. And not too far back, making his first start on the year, is Johnny Thomas. Now, most people may not know this name, but if you tuned into the ERL Indy 500 qualifying session last Friday, he actually took part in that, and so apparently decided to try his hand here in the Xfinity cars. And don't forget to tune into the Indy 500. It's going to be coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Friday, but a good run here in his first start in the MegaDriver86 series, currently in the 8th position.
Yeah, there are certainly easier tracks to make your first league start at than Michigan. Definitely holding his own right now here, running in P8. He's one of those. He's out there right now. He's just riding around there, Seth. I think he's not. He can't race for a championship. He can't race for a playoff spot. But he can race for notoriety and prestige in this league. And I think he's doing a pretty fine job of doing just that.
Absolutely. Right now, a man with a big smile on his face is Tate Lytle. The good battling early on in the first 10 laps of this race was for the second position, and that was allowing Tate Lytle to lay down Q laps and pull away. Right now, he enjoys almost a second and a half lead back to his teammate Chad Frankenfield, who is still in a bit of a dogfight with Joey Bailey. He just got around him, but Bailey trying to charge back on the inside.
And going back to what you said about the clean air, I've been switching back and forth here between a couple of cars. Tate, the lap comparison from Tate Lytle to somebody maybe back in the middle of the pack is just it's astronomical. The difference in the way he's supposed to drive as he gets a little loose off of 4. A little bit of a commentator's jinx there.
We got a spinner. Someone spun. I think that might have been the 97 of Zelensky.
Yes,
and
that's
I
what
don't see the caution coming out yet. Oh, now the caution is out.
Yep,
it was Zelensky, I'm sure.
Yeah, Zelensky spun off of 4 there. Looks like he might have just lost it on his own, Seth.
He's having some connection issues, too, after that spin, so that might have been what caused him to spin out. But yeah, I just barely saw the AK9 logo exit stage right at the top of the screen. And It doesn't look like he's got much damage either.
No, he hit that inside wall pretty softly, but there was another guy who had a little issue as well there, Damian Leniger. He lost it as well. It looks like maybe in reaction to seeing him. No, he got a little bit of help. It looks like he might have gotten a little bit of help from Johnny Thomas there off of 4.
Oh, Leniger, who is one of those drivers coming into this race that is outside the cut line on points. We'll see what happens first here to the 97 of Levi Zelensky. And we'll probably be able to then drop back to the 12 and see what happened to him.
He just lost the car.
This is coming down the back straightaway. And yeah, I have a feeling that maybe he might have overstepped that cushion that I was talking about just outside of the third groove.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me, Seth. Like you can hear him playing with the throttle on the onboard. Yeah. Car just got out from underneath him.
We'll see here with Leniger what happened to the 12. Yep, little contact there, and I think that was just a case of 25 maybe getting a little bit tight underneath.
Yeah, which is easy to do here. Especially off of 4 underneath the car. Car's really going to be upset in that dirty air, and it's just going to want to do nothing but plow. So
Leniger got that outside wall pretty good with the right rear, maybe a little bit with the right front. The tough thing, I think, for both he and Zelensky, though, is lost him a lot of positions on track. So like we saw with Jared Campbell when he ended up having his issue and dropped back some, he never really worked his way up to the front. So these guys are going to be back in traffic, and we'll have to see if they can work their way back up to the front. And, of course, we talked about the whole thing with Leniger. Really needs a good run here, especially going into a wild card race like Daytona, being outside of the playoff grid.
Yeah, absolutely. He was. That's not what he wanted and what he needed to see here. But it's good news for him as it happened early. Best he could do is try to get his car repaired, gather up as many points as he can, and shoot for a better luck at Daytona next week. Right
there, the 20 car of Shane DiMantova, I believe he may have gone with fuel only on the pit stop because he is currently lined up as the leader. He beat Tate Lytle off of pit road, so interesting strategy here.
You know what, Seth, going back and looking at it, I think he blew his box. I did not see him pull in. I saw he looks like he just drove straight through pit road. I'm not sure what happened there. It looks like he missed it. Oh, he might have gotten blocked from the 55, Seth. It looks like he started to turn in towards his box, and the 55 was coming in as well. or excuse me, the 54, not the 55. I apologize. It looks like he might have been blocked out of his box.
We see the 20 coming to pit road now, so bit of a pit road miscue is going to cost the 20. He's going to be starting towards the rear of the field, so that's going to turn the race lead over to Tate Lytle. You saw there the 26 of Tyler Riggs. He's currently scored 5 laps down. I don't know if he was on pit road for an unscheduled stop, didn't get in the race soon enough. Obviously, coming into this race with 2 wins, it looks like he's still going to make it into the playoffs, but right now it doesn't look like he's going to be in the factor for this victory. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a teammates on the front row. Now, you've got the experience here at Michigan. Which line, if you're Tate Lytle, do you want to take inside or outside on this restart?
I'm going to take inside. And that's just because it's early. This track does change throughout the race. For now, on this first restart of the race, I'm going to take the inside. Tate started on pole. Obviously, he started on the inside and was able to drive away to about 1.5 seconds over the field. So it obviously worked for him at the start. I see no reason why he would change it up.
Definitely agree, as the pit stops actually shuffled up a little bit of the back half of the top 10. It's going to be Tate Lytle with the lead, Frankenfield second, Joey Bailey third, Joshua Clark fourth. Andrew Rucker is now up in the 5th position. Former winner of the season, Joshua L. Adams, currently in 6th, Johnny Thomas in 7th, Ryan Lutz 8th, Kendall Noah Player and Ethan Burrell are right now your top 10, and this is the first time we've actually seen the 37 of Burrell up inside the top 10. I was kind of watching to see if he was going to be up there working his way into the top 10 that last run, but he rode around the 14th, 15th position, which says to me we know how fast a car he has. He was top of the board at one point in practice, but being back in traffic just affects the race car, affects it speed-wise.
Yeah, and I think, Seth, with that too, because he knows and is feeling how ill the car handles back in traffic, I think he's playing it safe. He's 82 points to the good. That's practically a win and a half. That's got him settled in that top 14 postseason standings. He has no reason to be aggressive here. He can ride around and bring home a solid top 10, top 15 finish even. And heck, he could wreck out of this thing and still be okay. But I think he's just playing it safe, and is going to take whatever finish he can get, as he's like 82 points to the good. There's no reason to play the risky cards here.
I agree with you that he'd love to get out of here with a good finish. The only thing that I would wonder is, I got to think in the back of his mind, he's thinking back to so many races where he was in the opportunity to win. He was able to win. He was in the position to win back in the heat races at ISM. He got wrecked in both of them when he was out in front. You think back to last week, 2 weeks ago, he was really the only challenger that Chad Frankenfield had in those closing stages, but he finished runner-up again. He has finished second or been wrecked when leading so many times. You got to think in the back of his mind, he's thinking, when am I going to find victory lane? We're getting ready to go back green. These guys have a bright blue Geico restart zone to be able to start in. Tate Lytle is going to control it, and he's going to get up through the gears, and we're back racing here at Michigan.
Good launch there for Tate. Let's see if he's able to make it work like he did last time going off into turn 1. Already, guys, looking to make it 3 wide, gain some spots here early on those fresh Goodyear tires.
I knew that coming into this one, the fun thing was going to be the restarts, because with all these different grooves, everybody's going to try a different line going into turn 1. They were 3 wide with Ryan Lutz, Joshua L. Adams, and Joshua Clark. They now settle it out to double wide as they're side-by-side currently. That's Lutz and Adams for, I think that's the 6th position.
And meanwhile, back up at the front, Chad Frankenfield making a move off of turn 4 to get out front of Tate Lytle there. Got a good run down the backstretch off of 2. I think Tate got a little loose. Looks like he's going to be able to hold on to it, though, for now with a little drafting help from Joey Bailey there in the 55.
Joey Bailey has actually been the draft aide for a couple of guys here so far in this race. He helped push Jared Campbell up a position, and now not only pushes Tate Lytle back to the lead, but that helped him get to second, so now it's Joey Bailey on the attack.
Yeah, Joey Bailey all over him here. This is a really strong performance here from Tate Lytle so far here early going here. He knows this is a go-get-him race. This is a race he needs to go and out and win and finish well at. and he's doing everything he can to make sure that stays in the realm of possibility here for him here.
Push the wall a little bit there in the entry of turn 1, and we have our second caution.
Not sure exactly what happened. I think we had a spinner there going into turn 1. Yeah, I had a spinner in the middle of 1 and 2 there.
And that might have been the 5 of Alex Balvan.
Yep. Jared.
Yeah, he's got rear end damage there.
Yeah, Jared Rexing, the 10 car there. Looks like got a little out of shape getting into 1. Oh, there was a little bit of contact there, actually, between the 10 and the 41. And the 5 was just an innocent bystander there. Really had nowhere to go.
Rexing comes into this one 55 points to the good as far as the cut line is concerned.
Yeah, that's not a blow he wanted to receive.
Oh, yeah. I see exactly what you're talking about. That's Dallas Myhand and the 41 that he's battling with.
Looks like he just
We'll see what happens here. Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. Maybe Rexing might have been thinking about going to the inside of the 86 and maybe didn't realize the 41 was there. In turn, the 41 didn't realize the 10 was coming down, and you see Alec Balvance gets a piece, and ooh, did Damian Lenniger get a little piece of that? I think he just barely hit the 5.
I think he just got through there, Seth. It was awfully close. That would have been 2 wrecks in a row there for Lenniger. That was a little bit of good fortune, I think.
So that is what brings out the caution here. One thing that I want to bring up, too, that we talked about at the top of the program that should be addressed. We gave you the list of drivers coming into this as far as above the cut line, below the cut line points-wise, but I'm looking at a couple of drivers that were up here towards the front before that caution came out, and actually quite a number of them stayed out under this yellow. Joey Bailey, I'm pretty certain that he's currently met the minimum start requirements. If he were to able to win today, I think he would leapfrog all those guys. He would be in a playoff position. Same for Ryan Lutz. There was another driver I saw too that I thought, Andrew Rucker. These guys are way back there in the point standings, but they've made the number of starts necessary. So I think if they were to pull out a victory here, they'd leapfrog all those guys. So we can't really just focus on the guys that could make it in points-wise, because there are some of these guys that could pull out a last-minute victory in the regular season and steal away a playoff spot.
Yeah, these guys aren't even in the top 19 in points, Seth. I mean, and they're running up here top 5. They look like they've been running up top 10 in the points all season long with the way they've been driving today. That's the interesting thing about Michigan is it suits a driving style, Seth. It's a tricky track for a lot of people, but for some people it just clicks and they love the way this track drives. And I think guys like Joey Bailey and Ryan Lutz are a couple of those people out here with very strong starts to this race.
Not only that, but one thing I've noticed with both of them is they seem to be comfortable wherever they put their race car. I've seen them use the inside line, the outside line, making passes, slingshotting down the straightaways. They seem very comfortable with the cars underneath them, and they seem like they don't have any fear going into the corners.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and like you said, the signs of aggression on the restart show that you don't make it. It doesn't matter what track you're at. If you're not comfortable with how your car is handling, you're not going to make aggressive moves like these guys are on the restarts. Doesn't matter how much grip people say the car has. It's a matter of confidence in the way your car is handling. If you're not happy with the way it's driving, if it feels too loose or if it feels too tight getting off a corner, you're not going to be the guy to make those aggressive moves because you don't want to get into anybody or take yourself out by smacking the wall. So it just goes to show how good these guys' cars are running for them right now.
Absolutely, as looks like we had a couple of drivers decide to come to pit road, but not anybody up at the front of the field. Tate Lytle still leading the way. Joey Bailey will be second. Vincent Isabella up here in the third position, though. We haven't really talked a whole lot about him, and all of a sudden that bright pink Chevrolet Camaro is up in the top 3 with Levi Zelensky, Chad Frankenfield at top 5. So maybe we're seeing somebody else here, like Vincent Isabella, 15 points back. He'd love to get up there, get a win, put himself in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I hate to keep going back to this fact, but it's so relevant right now is track position. He started back in 14th. Maybe he just wants to get up front and get some clean air. Maybe his car's not handling all that well back in traffic, as I'm sure is the case with many other drivers. But maybe he took that short green flag run as an opportunity to say, okay, these tires aren't that worn. Let's see what I could do with them out here in clean air and see if maybe I can gain some track position for the next caution, the next set of pit stops.
We've gotten the 1 to green signal, so we'll be going back green on lap 23. We are now, I believe, just about a third of the way through this race. And I'm looking back in the running order, and we mentioned the drivers coming into this race that are all in close proximity. Now, Tate Lytle we know is up here out front, but guys that were just above the cut line, like Rishev Kosla, Stephen Magot. Right now, Magot's back in the 17th position, and Rishev Kosla is just barely at the tail end of the lead lap in 24th. So not the runs these guys are looking for coming into such a critical position in the stands, especially with Daytona on the horizon.
Yeah, Kosla, like you said, is 5 points to the good, and Magot is good by a point. So that's I talked before the show started here that maybe they were going to be doing some point racing, but you get caught in the pack back there, and it's just so hard to get your car settled where you want it. It's still a long way to go here. This race is definitely not over by any stretch of the imagination for him here. So still plenty of racing left to do for them to get back up to the front.
And the good news for them is, too, a lot of the drivers that are trying to knock them out have had issues today, too. Dallas Myhan got a piece of that last wreck. Val Vance has spun out. So right now they seem like they're, at this point in time, maybe still in a good spot, but I think they would like a little bit more insurance going into Daytona, as Tate Lytle will lead us back into the Geico restart zone, and we are back underway here at Michigan on lap 23. And boy, he got through the gears good.
Yeah, a great launch from Tate there. That will give him a chance to get a good, nice entry into turn 1 and get a good drive off of turn 2. I think that's what hurt him the other last restart, is he had a car on his outside. He couldn't really get the power down and get the line he wanted through 1 and 2, but it looks like he's been able to do it this time and get a little bit of a drive off here.
Joey Bailey's going to clear for second. Zelensky going to go around the outside for third. Now the battle is on for fourth. Ryan Lutz to the outside of Vincent Isabella, who right now seems to be the lone man on the inside. Now Frankenfield sticks his nose in 3 wide.
Very, very racy up near the front. That's Isabella there on the older tires. He stayed out. And we were talking, we weren't sure if he was taking a gamble there trying to get some track position. It looks like the old versus new tires, the gap is just too much as he's getting eaten up in that 3-wide pack right now.
And the worst thing is on old tires, and he's got cars side drafting him on the left and right, so that means there'll be handful contact. Left is around, Zelensky is around, and neither one, I think, is going to hit the inside wall, but they both go for a long spin down the back straightaway apron.
That is extremely fortunate that happened middle of the back straightaway. That could have been, and extremely fortunate they were both able to keep it out of the field, because that was mid-pack. That could have been a lot worse for both those drivers. They're both able to breathe a sigh of relief here.
Absolutely. Man, that was close. And I honestly thought for a brief moment, too, I was saying, oh, these guys look like they're going to be okay, not hit the wall. And the 66 put it in reverse and was coming very quickly backwards towards the 97. I thought they might actually make contact with each other again, but that one looked to me like a little side drafting gone wrong.
I think you're right. Absolutely. It was, it's odd to me that it was middle of the backstretch, and looking at the replay here now, it looks like, it was just a side draft gone wrong. They both got off the corner just fine, and they just got a little too close, and around they went.
Yeah, sometimes you just try and get as much side draft as you can, and you just can't get too close. These cars have a bit of a hitbox as well, and so they have to be aware of that. Just because you're not on your screen touching the car in front of you doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't hit the hitbox that this game has got. As we watch them off of turn 2 here, and it's hard to tell who moves up and who moves down as well. I think Zelensky might have moved down just a little bit to try and get the draft off the right rear quarter panel. But again, very fortunate for both of these drivers that not only they spun down to the inside away from oncoming traffic, but they didn't spin down far enough to hit that inside wall.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, tip of the hat to Levi there. He drove out of that spin. His nose was headed right for that inside wall. His day was gonna be done, and he kept his foot in it and snapped it around the other way, and then held the brake to make sure he didn't hit anything or anyone. That's the thing, folks. When you're in one of these wrecks, the driving doesn't stop as soon as your nose points the other way. You've got a chance to get this car saved and taken care of. You do it. You keep driving until that car comes to a stop. And that's what Levi did.
Absolutely. And very fortunate, too, that Michigan is one of those tracks that has that very long back straightaway with no grass, with it being asphalt there, gives the opportunity for the car to slow down, and it's a long ways before you get to that inside wall. A lot of time to be able to gather it back up, or at least keep your car from going down and hitting that inside wall. So Tate Lytle still continues to lead, but that was actually, I believe, a battle for third gone wrong between Zelensky and Ryan Lutz. And Joey Bailey, I believe, has actually taken his car to pit road. So that puts Joshua Clark now up in the second position. David Tooker and his teammate Ethan Burrell, actually, I think those are all three teammates, the 28, 19, and 37, second, third, and fourth behind him. So some new competitors for Tate Lytle to have to deal with.
Yeah, it looks like from third on back, we're all takers to pit road. A couple guys a little further back in the field again stayed out because they pit that last caution. So track position, this is as good a caution as any to stay out and get that track position. But I have a feeling that the difference between old and new tires is just so important for these drivers, because I mean, guys pit from second place that pit the caution before just to get that new rubber. So it'll be interesting to see how this restart plays out for Tate.
I believe that the highest running car with those fresh tires is 10th place, Chad Frankenfield. So you got 8 cars between yourself and Frankenfield. If you're Tate Lytle and you're able to open up a distance at least before Frankenfield clears all the other cars on old tires, do you think those old tires can hold up?
Well, that's the thing too. If you're Tate Lytle, you're loving the fact that your spotter is telling you there are 8 cars between you and the guys with fresh rubber. That means he's obviously super happy with the way his car is handling. So that means he can drive out to a gap and build a gap and force those guys with new tires to wear their stuff out, trying to catch you down. And then by the time they've closed the gap, or they've moved through all the guys with old tires, they've got nothing left to run you down. So it's a bit of a strategy call here from Tate, and we'll see if it plays out for him. It'll be interesting to see if we get a long green flag run, how that works.
If we do get a long green flag run, I think that Frankenfield on back, they've got about 15 to 18 laps more in the tank than these other guys. These guys up here at the front all came down pit road under the first caution. Most of the leaders stayed under the second caution. Then Frankenfield, Bailey, and company, they came down here under our third yellow flag. So, if we do go into a long green flag run, it'll be interesting to see just how far Tate Lytle can stretch it, and in comparison, where Frankenfield and Bailey would be if they would be good to go the rest of the way on fuel.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as this is my first race commentating this season, I'm not sure what the fuel load is. Seth, I'm
not 100% sure what it is either, to be honest. That's one thing that we haven't exactly been made privy to.
that's all right. I would assume it's less than I would be shocked if it was a full tank in these cars whenever they stop and fill up with 4 fresh tires. Assuming that we've got a 75% fuel load on here, yes, absolutely. We're only on lap 28 of 75. Theoretically, if this goes green to lap 75, we would definitely be looking at least one green flag stop. Even without a green flag run, we're looking at least one more stop that you have to make it to the end on fuel.
As we're getting ready to go back green flag racing, it'll be on lap 29. Your top 10 currently look like this. Tate Lytle with Joshua Clark, the front row. Then you got David Tooker and Ethan Burrell, row 2. Johnny Thomas in his first start up there in 5th with Matthew Weeks. It's the first time we mentioned him up in the top 10. Scott Haney's up there in 7th. How about Shane DeMontoya? He was having that pit road issue on the last caution. He's up in 8th. Dallas Myhand in 9th. And right now, Chad Frankenfield in 10th as we get ready to go back green flag racing yet again here at Michigan.
See the launch again, another fantastic launch for Tate, and that's exactly what he wants to get that gap built between him and those cars with the older tires. Just make it as tough as possible for the guys behind him to catch him down.
What we're going to do is we're going to drop back to the 15 of Frankenfield real quickly here, the first car in fresh tires, and watch him cut his way through the field just to show the difference between the older and the newer tires. Look at him take it 3 wide there with Scott Haney and Di Montoya there up on Di Montova rather, up there on the top side. It's like Joey Bailey might have something to say about it. I think he tried to push the 3 past the 15. It didn't work though.
Yeah, that's the risky take too. There's a lot of cars with fresh tires out there that are trying to get past all these guys with old rubber.
4 wide back there. Sorry to interrupt, but that was Jared Campbell 4 wide on the front straightaway. And again, somehow they made that work.
Going back to that point, old tires versus new. Everybody's trying to get by the guys with the old tires, and you're going to see moves like that. There's still 3 wide coming off of 2. Here's Seth got 2 cars in the wall off of 2 as well.
It was Di Montova. I think the other one was Joshua L. Adams. They keep it together as Jared Campbell goes all the way down to the apron. So did Ethan Reasoner. Somehow they all keep it straight. We're still green.
Unbelievable bit of driving there from everybody else back there. That was 2 hard licks. I believe one of them was the 88, and I think, did you say the other was Di Montova?
I think it was the 20 and the 88, yes. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, that's, I'm not sure if those 2 are on old tires or not. I think there was a little bit of contact there, a little bit of monkey see, monkey do as well off of turn 2 there. But they were all able to keep it together, though. That could have been big.
Pretty sure that the 20 car was on old tires. I think Joshua L. Adams came to pit road with Frankenfield, Bailey, and the others, so might have just gotten boxed in behind the 20. But look at Frankenfield. I mean, there's a huge difference in miles per hour, huge difference in grip. He makes quick work of Joshua Clark, and now he's going after Ethan Burrell and David Tooker. He's up to 4th, and that's not what Tate Lytle wants to see.
No, especially because he hasn't built the gap he wants just yet. I mean, it's been 2 cautions that he stayed out on those tires. It's for about maybe 15 laps, I would say, versus Chad Frankenfield there on brand new rubber. So it's just, there's such a huge difference in tires. But Chad's still got to get by 3 cars. It's no small task for Chad here. So Tate's still got time to drive out to a gap here.
Absolutely. I mean, it looks like Frankenfield's able to drive it down deeper in the corner with those fresher tires. The only issue is if you're to the inside of someone coming off the corner, you're kind of pinched down. You can't use the wide angle off of the turn to be able to get that good straightaway speed. So I think that's what Frankenfield's dealing with right now. And now he's under fire. Joshua Clark says, hey, I may have old tires, but I want 4th place back.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joshua Clark has something to race for. He's got a playoff spot on the line that he needs to race for. Only 44 points to the good. He's doing all right on points, but I mean, he's near the front. Why not race hard and try and go get that win? As you see, Chad Frankenfield now clear him and make his way up to 4th, working on Ethan Burrell for 3rd place there.
They were almost 3 wide back there.
Got a car in the grass. 55's in the grass.
Bailey in the 55 car, and there's no caution yet.
He's able to keep it off each other there. I think he just got loose off of 4 there again, Seth. I don't know if he had any help.
They were 3 wide for a brief moment between himself, I think it was Joshua Clark, and I want to say the other one was Johnny Thomas. So that might have been what caused the car to step out from underneath him. He's now dropped back to the 15th position, but still looks like he is up to speed. Move back up to the front there, and as you mentioned, Tate Lytle has not pulled away. As a matter of fact, he's getting reeled in for the race lead by Ethan Burrell.
Yeah, and we got a yellow now here. We got a yellow at the back. I missed it.
Going to wave for the 4th time here at Michigan. And this might be the caution that Tate Lytle might have been looking for, perhaps.
Yeah,
he's going to be just almost to the halfway point. We're not quite there yet. What caused this caution?
Yeah, going back to take a look here. Spinner off of 4?
Not certain. We'll look and see if we can find out who it was. didn't see any smoke lingering, so I'm not certain.
Was the 97. I apologize about that. I had a little disturbance here. Sorry about that. It was the 97 spinning off of 4.
By Zelensky.
Yes, yeah.
Another issue for him.
Yeah, he just lost it in the middle of the corner. The car just got away from him again.
Had that issue earlier with Ryan Lutz. That put him back in traffic and probably affected the handling of his race car being back there.
Yeah, he's obviously not happy with the way his car is driving there. He's been mid-pack about the majority of the day. He started near the front, but since the start of the race, really hasn't been able to get anything going there with that early spin and this one again here on lap 35.
What happens here? Battling with Joshua L. Adams, who had gotten the wall earlier on the restart. Damian Leniger is there as well. And yet just comes around on him. Boy, yeah. The 2 was right up on his back bumper. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Maybe got him a little arrow loose, but it actually looks very similar to what we had earlier. I think it was with Damian Leniger. When he spun out, there was someone right behind him at the time and caused his car to go around.
Yeah, definitely could have been a factor too. And I think he was one of the guys that stayed out last caution too, Seth. So he might have been on a little old tires as well. So the handling just probably wasn't there at all. And he just went around and lost it.
Some interesting strategy going on right here. Tate Lytle. Yeah. And all the other leaders came to pit road, but Dallas Myhand is staying out. Now, why I find this interesting is because Myhand has spent most of this race around just inside the top 15. Mm-hmm. But you get bonus points for leading the lap. So with being 9 points outside of the top 14, knowing Tate Lytle's had the strongest car in this race and he's been out front leading these laps, I think he's now thinking, okay, I got to get every point I can get. Yeah, I'm going to give up track position, but I got to get that lap-led bonus point.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there. He's seen, because that's who he's racing right now, Seth, to get inside the top 14 is Tate, and he's seen how dominant he has been in this race. And so you're absolutely right. That's definitely a strategy call to go out there and lead as many laps as he can and see if maybe he can hang on for another quick caution and then maybe pit from a better spot just to keep that track position.
We ran 10 laps on that green flag run, and it was interesting because you saw Tate Lytle, Ethan Burrell, David Tooker. Obviously, they all came to pit road because they had stayed out under the last caution, but Chad Frankenfield, Joey Bailey, Andrew Rucker, all those guys, they came to pit road as well. I think that they noticed on that last run, you're a sitting duck with old tires, so if the leader comes in, yeah, you may not be able to take the lead from him with staying out, but you want to be on the same playing field as the race leader in terms of tire grip.
Yeah, for sure. And we keep going back to so many of the same points because they're just so relevant in this race today. The dirty air, the old tires, the track position, they all go hand in hand with each other. You always take a risk at a track like this when you stay out. It's a risk reward situation. You put yourself at a risk for staying on the old tires with all the guys with new rubber behind you. You play the risk of being eaten up on a restart. But if you get that quick caution and a lot of guys play the same game as you, you're able to pit from a better position. And one guy I want to point out that we were talking about earlier is the 13 of Vincent and Isabella, who played that game earlier in the race. We made a note of it. He restarted second behind Tate. He's up there running in P8 right now. So that gamble that he made earlier in the race is paying off as he's been able to maintain a spot in the top 10 here.
Absolutely. You talk about taking a risk and hoping it works out. I thought he was going to stay out, lead a lap, and come to pit road, but Dallas Myhand is going to be the control car on this restart. He's staying out. The lights are out top the pace car. We're going green this time. So this is very interesting strategy on the part of Dallas Myhand. And another thing that's going to be interesting to me, on equal tires. Ethan Burrell was making a challenge against Tate Lytle before that caution came out. He's going to be behind the control car here on this restart. So will he have anything with his fresh tires against the fresh tires of the 56?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's one of those guys that can just play it safe and be good for the next 2 weeks. But by all the power to him to be aggressive here as we get ready to come to the restart. A good launch here for Dallas.
Myhan's going to get away, but he is right now the only one out there with older tires. Everybody else had been to pit road, so we'll see how long those older tires can hang on. The battle's on for second. Ethan Burrell, he's going to clear Tate Lytle, looks like, through the center of the corner.
That's just what Dallas wants to see, is a side-by-side battle, but here comes the run off the corner. The old tires are going to...
Oh, my goodness. Oh, caution's out. They're
Turn
racing,
two.
I believe, back to the line. Oh, actually,
Yeah.
I guess they have frozen fields.
Yeah, the 54... Yes, yeah, the field should be frozen there at the point of caution, so I think Dallas is still going to be your leader.
No, I believe Ethan Burrell got past
Did he
him when
get
the caution
by?
came out.
Okay.
And there's the car that it was involved, as you mentioned, Rishabh Khosla, who's still trying to get the car turned around the correct direction.
Yeah, it looks like the 72 was really slow on the bottom on that restart. I'm not sure if he didn't get going or what happened there. Brent Wentz. He was very slow getting into turn one. It's like he just didn't get up to speed, and then the two cars that came around on his outside were the 54 and the 97 again. Man, he has seen all the faces of... Or, I'm sorry, not the 97, the 20. I apologize. They chased up the track trying to miss him, and the 54 got the worst end of that deal. And the two
tough break there for Rishabh Khosla as he comes into this only 5 points ahead of the cut line, so he can't afford something like this.
No, absolutely not. The two car was also involved as well. Josh Robin, he got a little bit of a damage from that as well. He went for a ride. Looks like it was nothing too severe for any of our serious contenders, but definitely not the day that Brent Wentz wanted to have with that spin.
No, certainly not. Rishabh Khosla got some rear end damage out of that. So he's not really had the day he's been looking for anyway. He's been running near the back of the pack for a majority of this race. So just trying to stay out of trouble, and unfortunately trouble found him.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys that maybe needed to take one of those gambles on the restarts there, stay out, maybe try and lead a lap, get yourself a couple extra points, and pray for one of these quick cautions like this. Like we said, worked out well, speaking of a quick caution in Dallas Mahan's favor. Did he stay out again here, or did he come on in? It looks like
he did. No, he's still out there in second place.
Yeah, he stayed out again. It's interesting to me that he would do that, given how quickly he lost time coming off of turn two there, Seth. He got caught real quick by the two guys with fresh tires, and I
think
like
his goal right now, he's trying to get like 10, 15 laps into a run and then draw everyone to pit road with him. But the question is, how many spots is he going to lose in that span of time? And as you mentioned, we saw the tremendous difference in speed between a side-by-side battle between Ethan Burrell and Tate Lytle and the then race leader, Dallas Myhan. So I'm really surprised he still is continuing to stay out there in the 41. Another thing that we've seen, they've been crazy, are the restarts. But you got to think, as we get closer and closer towards the end of this race, and we're entering into 30 laps to go territory, these restarts are going to be even crazier, with these drivers knowing that the moves they make could be the difference between a fifth place and a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that being said, too, it's there's 35 laps left in this race. Fuel should not be an issue now if we go green to the end. Or 35 laps, excuse me, 25 laps. Fuel should not be an issue if we go green to the end. So maybe being aggressive is the play here, but also if you're at the back of the pack on those fresh tires, biding your time. Some of these guys are on older tires up at the front. If this race goes green for a long run, maybe those guys at the back can run down the guys up at the front that are on the older tires once they've finished battling each other to get slotted into their positions here.
Talked about working the cautions perfectly to gain track position with Vincent Isabella. Well, another guy who did a good job of working the cautions to his benefit after his spin is the 66 of Ryan Lutz. Remember, he had that contact between himself and Levi Zelensky,
Yes,
he's been able to battle back up into the top 10. So, you know, we saw him up in the top. I think he was battling for third place when he had his issue. I don't think we can count him out of the conversation for this win yet now.
No, absolutely not. He's not up there by any fluke. He's been quick all race long. As you mentioned, he just had that incident that got him back into the pack, but he's had a clean race other than just that one small blemish. And absolutely, he's still very much a contender to win this race back there on fresh tires. And yeah, he's running real well.
About Dallas Myhand up there on the old tires. Obviously, he's trying to utilize a win-in-your-in strategy. There's 3 other guys up inside the top 10 also that are behind that cut line that could do the same thing. Right now, you've got Vincent Isabella there in the 7th position, but you've also got Matthew Weeks in 10th and Andrew Rucker in 8th. So a couple of other guys that have popped up here into the top 10 might have something to say about it. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, we've seen just how strong that 56 car is. Chad Frankenfield is his teammate, and I'm pretty certain that Andrew Rucker is also a teammate out of that stable. So you got to think that they're passing on information to him, and he might be up here battling for the win in the closing stages.
And one thing to note, too, right now as they run, Dallas Myhand, I think, might be into the top 14 if they were to finish where they run now. Stephen Magot is pretty far back in the pack there in 14th. Maybe not too far back. He's mid-pack. And then Kosla, who we saw in that spin to bring out this yellow, he is currently running back in 25th position. So right now the odds are in Dallas's favor. He's doing what he needs to do to get himself into that top 14, and right now it's looking pretty good for him. Let's see if he can hang on to it.
He's going to be stuck on that outside line with Ethan Burrell getting the lead from him just before that caution came out, so he will not have the benefit of being able to block the inside line to turn 1, so he could very well be a sitting duck on that upper lane. And it'll also be interesting to see just how quickly Tate Lytle is able to clear the 41 as he tries to focus his attention back on Ethan Burrell, because those two had a good battle going on, but the deciding factor was the slow 41 on the top side out of 2. That's what lost Tate Lytle an opportunity of leaving the back straightaway as the race leader. Ethan Burrell, he's been so close so many times. He's now in front, up through the gears. We're back green.
Good launch for Ethan there, and Tate also got a good restart as well. He's able to get to the inside of Dallas going into turn 1. He's getting a pretty heavy push here from David Tooker as well, going into turn 1 here. And they're Dallas on the outside there, as we mentioned. The old tires are really playing dividends for him here off of turn 2, as you can see him get munched up by the pack.
And the car that right now is kind of frustrated is Chad Frankenfield. He's boxed in behind him. He's got Joshua Clark to the inside and the slower car of Dallas Myhand in front of him. Another interesting thing I'm seeing here, David Tooker, has a win this season. Right now, he's locked into the playoffs. If he can get up there, take some pressure off of his teammate by battling the 56. Oh, yep, got a caution here as they were 3 wide coming to the line, and I think that might have been...
Looks like it was Dustin Dewar there in a 32 car. A couple cars involved here, it looks like. Oh, actually, it was way up. It was much further in. It looks like it might have been the 12 to start it. Leniger again.
There's the 32. He's got damage on the rear. See what happened to him.
Yeah,
Sixth caution of the day.
He was racing the 94 of Kendall Player, and they made contact, and looks like Damien got the worst end of that. Really, he did a good job of staying off of everybody, or everybody did a good job of staying off of him, rather. And then it looks like the 94, or I'm sorry, the 32 was a separate incident here. Yeah, it looks like
first with Leniger.
Yeah, the 32 was trying to miss the 12 and spun himself out off of the wall, it looks like. So 2 separate incidents created by, well, I guess it was 2 birds with 1 stone, really. Unfortunate day for Damien.
Definitely. I mean, he's been hit with a couple of points penalties, which have put him back in the situation that he's in. But he's had a strong car at a lot of different racetracks. But it always seems like he'll be up at the front, has an issue take place, gets back in traffic, and then he's caught up in incident after incident. And there you saw right there. It looked like just a little bit of a mistake by Kendall Noah player trying to make a pass for position.
Looks like Damien, too, has retired himself to the garage. So that'll be the end of his day. He was one of those drivers outside looking in a must-win situation. He's got to go to Daytona and race hard and see if he's able to steal a spot in the last race of the regular season.
And 19 points out coming into this race. We had a total of 30 cars in tonight's field. We currently have, I believe, 24 of them sitting on the lead lap. So there was the opportunity that he could have made the points gap a little bit closer heading into Daytona. Ooh, little cat and mouse there as Tate Lytle is going to stay out. Ethan Earl and others going to come to pit road. So that's interesting. But going back to Damian Leniger, definitely, I think it's an absolute must-win situation for him going into Daytona now. And boy, that's got to be such a daunting thought. It's a must-win at a super speedway where more often than not, you just have to be in the right place in the right time.
Yeah, and that's definitely it's a good thought too, because it's usually one of the tracks where, especially if you're in a position where you're sitting comfortably in that top 14, you can ride around and just let whatever happens happen, right? But if you're in the shoes of Damian Leniger, you got to go get it every single lap. And there's no playing it safe in a must-win scenario. He's got to go out there and he's got to drive hard, make aggressive moves, and hope that it pays off for him. And that's just the way the cards have played in his hand here. So.
Really changes the mentality of the driver as well when you're in a must-win situation at a super speedway, because you probably are more willing to take and make those risky moves, because if it works, you might get yourself a playoff spot. If it doesn't work, you can say, well, at least I tried.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the mentality he's got to have going into Daytona is, okay, if I give it my all and it works out, as you said, I'm in the playoffs, right? But if you give it your all and you get caught making an aggressive move and it ends your night, then the way you can look at it is, okay, I needed to win the race or I wasn't going to make it. If I would have raced safe, it wouldn't have mattered. I still would have missed the postseason. So there's that to sit back on. That's just the way he's got to approach next week.
As of right now, looks like the top 10 cars stayed out under this caution. Tate Lytle, Ryan Lutz, Johnny Thomas, Ethan Reasoner. Joey Bailey's now back up to 5th. Remember, he had that spin through the infield grass not too long ago. Joshua L. Adams, Scott Haney, Michael Goodman, Shane DiMontova, and Levi Zelensky. That is your top 10 right now. They are the ones on old tires. And I'm a little surprised that Tate Lytle, he was running second, decided to stay out. Ethan Burrow came to pit road. He decided to stay out. We saw before when we were watching him versus the new tires of Chad Frankenfield how he wasn't really pulling away. But I guess at this point in time, he's just feeling track position is more important. We didn't have that long of a run between caution 5 and caution 6, so maybe those tires are still okay for a little bit.
Yeah, he's definitely been the fastest of the guys that have done the old tire test here, Seth. He's just been so quick on these restarts. He's been able to maintain. We haven't seen him drop back very far at all on any of these restarts where he's gotten passed for the lead by guys with newer tires. If it was anybody but him, I'd be a little concerned. But if it's Tate Lytle, we've seen it all race long. He's been able to maintain at least for a little while. I have no doubt that he'll be able to do it again here on this restart.
He's going to choose the inside line, it looks like. We should have the lights going out on the pace car here, so we will go back green on lap 49. And if my calculations are correct, I believe that will give us a total of 27 laps to go in this race. I don't think we've seen the end of caution flags, So that also might be what's on Tate Lytle's mind, is he may not have to run as many green flag laps on those tires if we don't go into long green flag runs.
Seth, I'm sorry. We're back to green right now here. If you want to hit the skip forward button, we're back green right now.
I was probably on the wrong button. I was.
That happens, man. No worries. We're back green here. They're middle of 3 and 4. There's a battle for the lead between Tate Lytle and Ryan Lutz right now.
There is Ryan Lutz about half a car length off the back bumper of the 56. I believe the last start that Ryan Lutz had was a podium finish at Charlotte. So he's trying to get himself a speedway win. I don't exactly off the top of my head remember how many starts Ryan Lutz has made this season, so I would wonder if a victory here at Michigan would get him into the playoffs or not. We'd have to find out later on. Good battle going on here for the third spot, though, between Johnny Thomas and Ethan Reasoner.
Yeah, everybody fighting for everything they can get. Ryan Lutz is falling back a little bit, but this is what we were talking about. Tate has been so fast all race long, even on old tires. He's able to stretch out a gap right now. He's pulling away from the 66, who is on fresher tires. He's just been so impressive this afternoon here. He's found something in this car that nobody else has right now.
Looking here at the car with the freshest tires towards the front, 9th place David Tooker, and even right there you saw he couldn't make the pass on Levi Zelensky, who I think has about 7 laps older tires. He was able on the outside line to still hang on to the 8th position. So I don't think there's as much of a difference in the tires here on this run as there was back on our last restart.
No, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how this run plays out. Hopefully we get a good stretch of green flag laps in. Everybody seems to be single file to about the 10th position. We'll see if people are able to run each other down here and who can make their way towards the front as we come around off turn 2 on lap 52 of this 75 lap race.
You can see the 66 of Ryan Lutz kind of searching. He's not running the same line the 56 is into the corner, trying to get the clean air to the nose, try and help the handling. This time he actually does follow in line, but he's been trying, it looks like, to go a half groove higher, especially in turns 1 and 2, and then exit lower off of turn 4. And as these two are battling here, it's almost looking like maybe the 25 might be reeling the top 2 in. So Johnny Thomas might have something to say about this race lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And meanwhile, back in the pack, it's a dogfight here for 6th place. There's about 4 cars that are just fighting for it. They were 3 wide off of turn 4. David Tooker is the one hanging on to 8th place right now. I apologize, I said 6th. Just an absolute dogfight back here in the pack as the leaders are calmly running around that single file.
I think Zelensky may have brushed the wall a little bit there off of turn 2 as Tooker's going to get around for 7th. Andrew Rucker's going to move into 8th. And you've got a couple of other guys back there that's got multiple wins this season in Jared Campbell and Chad Frankenfield. Both of them right now currently outside of the top 10, but you're seeing right here with this battle going on from Tooker on back. Andrew Rucker, he's kind of in desperation mode. He pretty much 40 points ahead of the cut line. He needs to leave here with a good finish so that way he knows mathematically going into Daytona he's going to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about Dallas Myhand earlier in the race, staying out as long as he did and staying up front as long as he did. He's now fallen back into the clutches of the pack. He's running in P17 right now. He's actually locked in a battle with Vincent Isabella and Stephen McGough, who happened to be one of the guys he's racing with right now. So a pretty clutch battle going on as far as points are concerned. Late in the pack, got his car sideways off of 4.
Did he save it? That was Vincent Isabella. Caution's out.
Caution's out.
Oh, I thought he was going to have it saved. Vincent Isabella in the 13 car.
Look, somebody got the wall ahead of him, too. I don't know if that was a factor. It looked like, I thought I saw this 97 of Levi Zelensky get the wall off of 2. I'm not sure if that spin was at all related to that. I don't think it was.
We almost had a follow-up wreck, too, as well. It looked like Dallas Myhand almost came down across the nose of the 2 of Josh Robin. So that would have probably been a follow-up spin, but fortunately they were able to clear each other. So the caution is out again. And this might be the caution that maybe Tate Lytle was looking for. Do you think this was a long enough run, everybody's going to come to pit road, or do you think David Tooker and company are going to stay out this time?
I think Tate leads the field on the pit road here. He's been out. I would be blown away if we see this 56 car stay out. I definitely think he leads the field down. I wouldn't be shocked if some guys a little further back in the pack stay out to try and get a lap led or try and maybe get that track position back that they might have lost earlier on in the run. But I definitely expect to see the top 5 at least come into pit road here.
Ryan Lutz did not let Tate Lytle get away on that run. And so, again, like we had seen before when Tate Lytle had stayed out, he was not able to get away from the field. He definitely is able to on the fresher tires, though. We'll watch and see what happens here to the 13 coming off of turn 2. He was to the inside of Scott Haney, and I think he just gets too low here. Rear end's going to come around on him. I thought he was going to save it, and then he overcorrects it, and car goes around. That's why they had to throw the yellow with oncoming traffic. But fortunately for him, just a simple little 360, mash the throttle, continue on. He will lose positions on track, but could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, he's still got a car to race with, Seth. That's the main thing. As we saw everybody come into pit road. Maybe not quite what we predicted, but it looks like, Tate Lytle barely wins the race off of pit road there. That was very, very close. I thought we
didn't get back in time to see that, but it was a 3 wide between the 56, 66, and 25 coming off pit lane. You're right. It maybe was half a car length, if that Tate Lytle was able to win the battle off pit road.
So this evens the playing field here, Seth. Everybody is on fresh rubber. Nobody on old tires here. Lap 57 to 75. This is going to be wild. This is going to be by far the most wild restart we've seen all afternoon. Everybody's on an even playing field. Everybody up near the front is going to be able to go out there and go challenge Tate finally. Because this whole afternoon, there's always been something that would set someone apart from the others. Whether that be fresh rubber, it would be fresh rubber versus old rubber was the difference for so many of these restarts. And now that everybody's on the same set of tires since the start of the race, it'll be interesting to see who has something for Tate.
Not only that, but even though they've got fresh rubber here with this restart, everybody's 57 laps into this race. They know what they've got. They know what's underneath them. They know what they're capable of doing now. So I think we're going to see them with everything that they've learned in these first 50, 55 laps. Now they're going to be able to apply it in these final 20 or so laps.
For sure. And I would not be surprised to see Ryan Lutz make a heck of a move going into turn 1 or coming off of turn 2 to try and get himself in position to get by the 56. The only difference is Tate has been so quick on those restarts, getting up through the gears and building himself a gap to turn 1 where he doesn't have to worry about being challenged entering the corner. And that's just allowed him to get a nice smooth run off of turn 2 and kind of drive away, at least for the first couple of laps, while everybody else behind him battles.
I'd be interested to see too here, though, is that 25 of Johnny Thomas, because we watched that battle before the caution came out between Tate Lytle and Ryan Lutz, and it was looking like Thomas was starting to close in on them. He's going to be third, starting second on that inside line, so he'll have the benefit of knowing when the 56 accelerates. I almost wonder, this is the closest we've seen him up to the front, if he might have something to challenge Tate Lytle with, because we've mentioned it's his first start. We haven't seen him in this series yet. We don't know what he can bring to the table when the win is on the line, so the furthest he's been up here so far today, and it'll be interesting to see if what he's learned here at Michigan so far, if he's going to be able to apply it and maybe battle for the win in his first start.
Yeah, I mean that, and what an upset that would be if a rookie making their first start would be able to upset the points battle and really crush the not necessarily entirely crush the hopes and dreams of Tate Lytle, but certainly put a damper in his plans to make this postseason, because everything has gone 100% correctly for Tate so far, and Johnny Thomas, he's got nothing to lose, and he's restarting in third place, which in my mind is the best place you can start other than up front in the first position on restarts here at Michigan. So it could be an extremely wild restart here with see 15 laps to go here.
The sun is setting here in Michigan. Your top 10 for this restart. Tate Lytle, the leader. Ryan Lutz will be second. Thomas in third. Ethan Riesener, who comes in only 10 points ahead of the cut line. It's been a solid day for the 86. He's fourth. Joshua L. Adams, fifth. Then you got Joey Bailey, David Tooker, Andrew Rucker, Jared Campbell, and Chad Frankenfield. That is your top 10. Should mention here as well, we haven't really talked about him because he had some issues at the start, but with all these cautions coming out, Tyler Riggs, two-time winner, is back on the lead lap in 25th, so we'll have to see if he can work his way up maybe to a top 10 run. He hasn't had that great a car here today because he's been trying to get back on the lead lap. He finally has. We'll see if he's got anything here in these final 15 laps. Tate Lytle, he's been the control car most of this restart. Let's see what he's able to do here with 15 laps to go.
Another fantastic launch on the restart here from Tate. We've talked about that all day long, but the car that stayed right with him, the 25 in that third spot, he stayed right on his back bumper going into turn one. He's going to be able to apply some pressure here off of two.
Able to clear Ryan Lutz, and now Lutz with a crossover to the inside as he's going to battle for second. That's what Tate Lytle wants to see. He says, you guys go ahead, side draft each other, hold each other up while I build a little bit of a gap between you guys and myself.
That was an impressive attempt there from Ryan Lutz, but the car just didn't stick for him off of turn two, and it allows Johnny to get away from him a little bit and go run down the 56 of Tate Lytle. Let's see if he's got anything for him.
Our Richmond winner there, our second Richmond winner, Joshua L. Adams in the 88. He's battling right now for the fourth position with Ethan Riesener, and it looks like the battle will be for second place right now, as there's a little bit bigger of a gap from first to second than there is from second to third.
Yeah, the top three kind of, from second on back, it seems to be tightened up there. Tate's just slowly driving away. This is exactly what Tate wanted to see. This is not the situation that Johnny wanted to be in, however, having to hold off Ryan Lutz in the 66 for second. Ryan's going to clear him just off of turn four there. Nice little slide job there to get himself to second.
Boy, that 25 car ran right up there near that cushion where we've seen some drivers overstep and spin out. Made me a little nervous coming off turn four, but he hung on to it, tucked in right behind in line behind the 66 of Ryan Lutz. So now Lutz has Thomas cleared. Question is, does he have anything now for the 56? Can he run him down?
Heck of a battle going on back here between fifth and sixth. The 88 was all over the 55 of Joey Bailey coming off of turn two. Got him a little loose. He's underneath him now off of four. Really fighting hard for that spot. A little bit of side draft down here in the front straightaway.
A lot of Supras right there with Bailey, Adams, and right behind them, David Tooker in the 19. They're all right now nose to tail for 5th, 6th, 7th, and they're actually starting to close in here as well on Ethan Riesener. So this may be a four-way battle for the 4th position.
Meanwhile, up at the front of the place, the top two seem to be slowly checking out on the field. The 25 of Johnny Thomas is slowly falling back into the clutches of Ethan Riesener. But Ryan Lutz in that 66, he's building the gap to third place there. He's going to try and go run down the 56 of Tate Lytle, see if he's got anything for him here in the late runnings.
As of right now, though, with that clean air, Tate Lytle is running about a 10th quicker each lap than the 66 of Ryan Lutz. Maybe a little less than that, maybe about 8 100ths, but he is slowly continuing to increase his gap as Ethan Riesener stepping out of line, had a good run out of turn two. He's going to slingshot for third on Johnny Thomas. I think he might clear him here into three. Thomas tries to bow back on the top side, close to that right rear quarter panel.
And moving him up the racetrack was Ethan Riesener. That's going to open up the door for Joey Bailey to get by Johnny. On the inside there off of four, that's 2 spots lost in one corner there for Johnny. It's a heck of a battle.
Riesener driving aggressively right now. He knows he's only had that 10-point gap coming into this race. He wants it to be bigger than that going into a wild card race like Daytona. This has been, I think, one of the strongest performances I've seen out of Ethan this entire season. And right now, the guy that is dropping is Johnny Thomas. He's now under fire from Joshua Adams. That's for 5th.
Yeah, I think he's just getting munched up by the... we got a caution here in the back of the pack here.
Caution's out, and it's with 11 laps to go, so we will get a restart under 10 laps remaining.
It was the 2 car of Josh Robin here. Lost it off of 2, just all by himself.
Robin's been having a really tough day. He's currently, I believe, scored 5 laps off of the lead lap. And looks like he is going to be bringing out this late yellow flag.
There are
He's been
2
struggling
people.
with that race car. He's taken a couple of wave arounds.
There are 2 people in this race who did not want to see that yellow, and that is Tate Lytle and Ryan Lutz. They have pulled away from the pack. They were going to have a race of their own to the finish here. It was going to be one heck of a battle, but alas, we've got a caution here with 10 laps to go. It's going to be what we're looking at, like a 6-lap shootout here to the finish. It'd be interesting to see who pits and who doesn't here.
Definitely. I agree with you on that. We've got currently, I believe, 27 cars on the lead lap. So if you do come to pit road, you're running the risk of giving up a lot of track position. And one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of drivers have not been able to pick up spots after they lose them on pit road on the racetrack.
And as we come around to see the guys come into pit road for the first time today, this is not... Tate Lytle is not happy with what he sees in the mirror.
Yep, he sees nobody. He was the only one, I believe, that stayed out.
Yes, he was. Vincent Isabella did stay out.
He did.
Yeah, so only 2 cars stayed out under this yellow. Joshua Adams is the first car off of pit road. Maybe some 2-tire strategy was called here from a couple of guys.
I think you're right. Yeah, he came out quite a ways ahead of Ryan Lutz and company, so I think he did go with a 2-tire strategy. I think Lutz and the rest of them went with 4.
I stand corrected. I believe this is the second time that he missed his box again, Seth. He drove right through pit road again. Did he do that earlier, or was that somebody else?
No, that was somebody else that did that earlier.
I'm really interested to see what the strategy call is there, because that's twice. I mean, it didn't even look like he made an attempt to come in.
Well, he comes into this race with a victory, so right now he would be locked into the playoffs with that win. But yeah, I mean, including him, there would only be 3 cars out here that would be on old tires. Would he be willing to come to pit road, get the fresh tires, and lose all that track position, or has he basically just made his bed with missing his pit stall? It's like he is going to stay out, so costly error there. We'll see what it results in for the 88.
You know what, though, Seth? It might have been a little bit of a calculated mishap, quote-unquote mishap, if you want to call it that. He might have come to pit road and seen that Tate was the only car that stayed out. That's a good point. Actually, saw that Tate and Vincent were the only cars that stayed out. Maybe he wants to get a good look at that 3rd place restart spot and maybe have himself a look at getting another win here just to get him that extra bonus point going into the postseason. It's tough to tell what exactly happened there, but...
Yeah, that could definitely be the case. I think one thing... You were talking about the fact that Tate Lytle not happy with what he sees in his rearview mirror, but I think the one thing that will make him happy is that Vincent Isabella stayed out with him, and if it was a mishap or strategy, with Joshua Adams starting on the inside, that puts the freshest tires on the outside of row 2. So Ryan Lutz is going to be boxed in behind the 13 on this restart. That's going to give Tate Lytle a little bit of an opportunity to maybe create a gap down into turns 1 and 2.
For sure, and we've seen the restarts that Tate has had all race long. He's by far and away been the best at them. So maybe it gives him a chance to drive away off into turn 1, and like you said, kind of hope that maybe Ryan gets boxed in coming off of turn 2 there. But we've seen what the difference is on these old versus new tires, especially off turn 2 on these restarts. The guys on the older tires just aren't able to stay in the power, especially if they're side by side with somebody. So we'll see what kind of bottleneck is created off of turn 2 here with these 3 cars on old tires up at the front.
There's been a number of speedway races this season as well that have ended with multiple green-white checkers. So I would think if you're someone like Ryan Lutz, David Tooker, you're trying to get yourself up there as quickly as you can to maybe 3rd place, 2nd place, something like that. If a late caution comes out and there's a green-white checkered, you want to have yourself positioned for that You may not necessarily take the lead away from Tate Lytle on that run before the yellow comes out, but if you can be alongside of him, if you can be right behind him in third, that I would think would put you in the catbird seat.
For sure, yeah. And it's a matter of, we saw the only person that's been able to do it perfectly on any of these restarts this afternoon was Johnny Thomas in the 25. He's been the only person to restart and go and stay right on the back bumper of Tate going into turn one, except for the start, obviously. He's been the only person this afternoon that's been able to stay with him to turn one on these restarts. So it'll be interesting to see if Joshua Adams is able to do the same thing on this restart here.
So out atop the pace car, the green flag will come out for Tate Lytle. Next flag he wants to see the flagman waving will be that white flag. He does not want to see a caution between now and then. It will be 6 laps to go. He's got Vincent Isabella that'll be holding up the outside line potentially. Joshua Adams on the inside maybe holding up that inside line. So right now he's kind of got 2 picks. We'll have to see if that'll be enough for him to hold on, as we will have 6 laps remaining here at Michigan. I have a sinking feeling we've not seen our last caution, but then again, you never know, as it's going to be in the hands of the 56 up through the gears, and he is gone.
He is absolutely just taken off on that restart, and you see the Ryan Lutz in the 66 is all over Isabella in that 13, trying to get him going so he can get a clear run off of turn 2. He's looking to the outside of the 13 now, trying to get himself a position off of 2. This could get real tight.
We got a Joshua Adams fun from about the 6th position.
And another wreck off of 2
further ahead. I don't think anyone hit him. Caution's going to come out, and cautions breed cautions.
That's not what Tate wanted to see. He got another good launch on that restart. He was gone. The 66 just about got clear of the 13. It's just that old tires versus new, man. That's all it was.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the 88 was on old tires. As you mentioned, he missed his pit stall. He got put up to the 3rd groove, and there was no grip there for his tires to find.
Yeah, he couldn't get that launch like we were talking about off of turn 4 to stay with Tate, because that's what he needed to have happen. Ryan, we knew, was going to get the launch behind the 13, and he did, and he pushed the snot out of the 13 to get him going. Unfortunately, Joshua Adams just couldn't do the same thing and get right up to Tate, and it ended up costing him big time here. But he's got that win. He's locked in. This is the risk he take. He's all good for the postseason.
The 88 got a little bit of help from Jared Campbell. Those older tires, he had to feather it through the corner a little bit more than Campbell, and Campbell just wasn't ready for that braking zone there.
Yeah,
to see some drivers dart down to the inside to avoid.
Yeah, turn 1 at Michigan on the restarts is not really one that you're prepared to have cars braking in front of you for. It's nearly wide open through there on the restarts, even on older tires. But sometimes when those tires are that difference between old and new tires is just too many laps. The difference is just too great, and sometimes you just end up running over people.
Well, that spin out was the decider for Joshua Adams to definitely come to pit road now. After his pit stall miscue, he stayed out, and now, losing all that track position, he's able to come to pit lane. I think he's actually lost a lap as a result of being on pit road.
Yes.
So, I think, if my calculations are correct, I think we will get back green. We'll probably get back green with a green-white checkered here in regulation.
Yes, that would be my guess too. It all depends on if the lights go on or off on the pace car this next time by here. We're on lap 70. We're pacing lap 72 now here, coming around to lap 73. Lights off would put us with a restart on lap. We would be looking at a regulation finish here if we were to get the 1 to green this time.
The bad news for Tate Lytle, yeah, he'll be the control car, but Ryan Lutz did not pass Vincent Isabella before that caution came out. That means he's going to line up second on that inside line. He's going to be right there with the 56, and if he can time the restart and be right with Tate Lytle going into turns 1 and 2, he's got the fresher tires and might have something to be able to wrestle this victory away from Tate Lytle.
So, Seth, I'm a firm believer that there's a lot of sports out there where the mental game plays a huge factor, right? I am a firm believer that auto racing is another one of those sports that the mental game comes into the picture. Tate Lytle has restarted at the same point every single restart he's been leading. Is it too far out of the realm of possibility to say maybe he plays a little mental head game here with the 66 and the 13 on this restart? Maybe he waits to go. Maybe he tricks the 66 into thinking that he's going, and maybe gives himself a little advantage on this restart by not going as soon as he has been all race long.
That's a great point, because Ryan Lutz has been up there a couple of times when Tate Lytle's been the control car. And as you said, Tate Lytle's basically accelerated in the same point every single time. So yeah, that is something he could utilize to his favor. I think that the one thing he's going to really have to rely on, though, is the fact he does not miss a shift, or he does not spin the tires. Because remember, Ryan Lutz is going to have more grip going into turn one. He's going to be able to carry more speed. I mean, we saw that latest caution with what happened where Joshua Adams could not take turns 1 and 2, as well as Jared Campbell, who had fresher tires. So there is a huge difference in speed, especially in the first 2 corners. So if there's any mistake in any way by Tate Lytle, then Ryan Lutz is going to be there to capitalize.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, and like you brought up my next point, was Ryan Lutz has restarted alongside or near Tate every single restart. He's seen where he's going on these restarts. Looks like, holding my thought for a second,
this is interesting
Tate
strategy.
The outside here.
This is smart. I wouldn't have thought of this. He's been using the inside line every time, but yeah, box the 66 in behind the 13.
What? I am so impressed with the effort that Tate has put into this afternoon's race. Like, just the simple calls like that. It absolutely. So now he's got, like you said, he's got the 13 with old tires blocking the 66 from getting a good restart. And he could still play those head games. He could still go a little later than he has been. 25 is behind him. He's on the same tires the 66 are on, but he hasn't been as fast as the 66. That's not to say he doesn't challenge the 56 here, because remember, he's been the only car all race long to go with the 56 on the restarts and stay with him. So he could pose a challenge on this outside, but the greater risk is the 66. And this is an awesome call, I think, from the 56 of Tate Lytle.
I think you're absolutely right. And the thing I think that also could work out for Tate Lytle, if Thomas cannot get as good a jump as Tate Lytle, if he can get the 13 and the 25 side by side into turn 1, that might cause the 25 to have to check up a little bit and allow him to gap not only the 66 but also the 25 car on the high side. I am so excited to see this pace car duck on. This is going to be a wild restart. I believe this is a green-white checkered here. We're on lap 64. This is our first attempt here. We have unlimited attempts as well. Tate Lytle wants to see that white flag. He wants to be out front when he sees that white flag. Lytle to pull away for the moment.
That's a huge gap. That's a great restart that he needed. Ryan Lutz also got a great restart there. He's moved into second.
Caution's out. We didn't make it back to the white. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're still green. Never mind.
97 lost it off of 2. It looks like he's going to keep it together. The 3 wide, almost 4 wide going in the turn 3 back in the pack here.
Lytle say, keep it straight, guys. Keep it straight. Here comes Ryan Lutz. Big run through 3 and 4.
3 wide off of turn 4. They get a 4 wide off of turn 4. They come up stripe. And Tate Lytle is going to stay in the lead as the caution comes out yet again. Oh my goodness.
I think it was just before the start-finish line as well. Kendall Noah Player, I think, was spinning in front of the field for a moment.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
That was so crazy. I was so hoping they were going to keep it together back there, because what a finish this was going to be here.
Just
cautions.
Maybe 100 feet away from the start-finish line when the caution flew. And Tate Lytle is going to have to do it all over again. And I don't know. If we had made it back to the white, Ryan Lutz was on his back bumper. I don't know if Tate Lytle been able to hold him off or not, but now he's going to have Lutz to his outside. Look who's up to third. Frankenfield's up to third. He kind of faded out of the picture mid-race, and now he's up in the podium spot.
Seth, this is just taking a turn that I am just so excited. This has just become a wild race, and it has just been a thrill to watch. Tate Lytle is going to need to be wearing a neck brace after this race. The amount of times he's thrown his head back in his seat, groaning at the caution coming out just inches before the start-finish line. This is just crazy.
Because of what we had just transpire. You've got Stephen McGough. He's up in 7th. Dallas Myhan's back up to 9th. Tyler Riggs. He was 5 laps down early on. He's in the top 10.
Unreal drive from Riggs there, and that's just huge for him. He's another car outside looking in that could just steal the show here, because no doubt these two leaders are going to be door banging all the way around this track, trying to get every inch they can. And Tate does not want this race taken away from him. He's raced his heart out this afternoon.
I mean, regardless of the fact, if he does not win, he's going to have a tremendous points day nonetheless, which will probably put him, in at least a decent situation going into Daytona. But he's had the strongest car of the day. He does not want to give up a win after leading so much of it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just going back and I'm looking at that. That wreck was just, we'll have to go back after this race is too exciting to focus on what was going on back there right now, but we'll have to go back after the race and see.
Sure, we got to look at it right now. I think it was Rucker in the 64 was the car that got hooked.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Vincent Isabella that was behind him, and you could just see everyone that gets collected up in there. Ethan Reasoner, Vincent Isabella, I believe the 20 was involved up in the air for a moment when Ethan Reasoner.
Well, the 64,
5, 6, 7 cars there.
Yeah, the 64 got loose, I think, off it. There was a little contact between the 25 and the 28 ahead of him, but they kept it together, and the 64 got loose and then came down into everybody else that was in that pack, and it was just on from there. There were a couple of contenders. Dallas was caught up in that. Dallas Mayhem was caught up in it in the 41. The 13 as well. And oh my goodness.
Actually, I'm going to stop you real quick because this race is actually over. They did make it back to the line. I thought that we were going to get another restart, but no, Tate Lytle did get to the line before the caution came out. He's the winner of the race.
Wow, that is unreal. Sorry about that, folks. I was rambling. I did not even notice that. What a finish. That was crazy.
Wow, so he did hold on. He does get the victory. I'd love to know just exactly where he was at the time of the caution being thrown, because I thought he hadn't made it to the line yet, but apparently he did.
I'm curious as to that as well. Maybe there was a rule change we were unaware about here, but he didn't take the white flag. The caution was out well before he made it.
I thought so too.
Let's see. We look back on the chase camera here. The caution was thrown a good 200 feet before the start finish, but it'll be interesting to see what the decision is there.
Regardless of the fact of that, Tate Lytle, we'll take a look here at the replay of his burnouts, because I looked at the results, and all of a sudden I look over, see the 56 doing burnouts. So I thought, oh, okay, the race is official.
I saw Goodwin Tate in the chat, and I was like, oh, all right, I guess they called it. So congratulations to Tate. I mean, that was just unreal. What a finish.
I mean, I think we can safely say that the dominant car did win. I mean, he led just about the entire race, aside from some where, drivers did some pit strategy, gain track position. But he had the strongest car of the day, started on the pole, so proved even then that he had the speed to be out in front. And this is huge for him in the fact that now the guy that came into this race in that cutoff line, now he's going to be locked into the playoffs going into a track like Daytona.
Yeah, and that's huge. He doesn't have to go into Daytona worrying about winning the race. He can go in there and cruise, and that could not be a bigger feat for Tate Lytle. Well deserved, well done.
Take a look here at the finishing results. Ryan Lutz going to end up in second. Chad Frankenfield, that was a bit of a comeback run for him. Same for Ethan Burrell, because both of them kind of faded out of the top 10, and all of a sudden they finished third and fourth. Joshua Clark, I think with a 44-point advantage over 14th coming into this race. This top 5, I think, may have him locked into the playoffs via points. Johnny Thomas, first start of the season, he was up there battling for the lead. He was up in the top 5, 6th place. That is a great first run for him. And Stephen McGough, Dallas Myhand, 7th and 9th. McGough was 1 point to the good. Myhand was 9 points out. The battle between those two, I think, is going to be even closer heading into Daytona now.
Yeah, for sure. And one guy we were talking about too, who we were shocked, he was running off the pace almost the whole race. Tyler Riggs coming home with a top 10 finish. A good solid day for him there. Real quick to answer the question that you and I had both, Seth, sorry to kind of stray away from the thought there. It looks like the decision was made after the Pocono race. If you remember the six cautions after the 6 green, white checkers, I should say, rather. It looks like the decision was made to only do 1 attempt at the green, white checkered from there on out. And that's what led to the result.
Makes perfect sense. Because I remember that Pocono race, and it was an exciting finish at the end, but oh my goodness, just six green, white checkers. It was very difficult under all those pacing laps to try and continue to hype it up. We're doing another restart, but another driver, not a solid top 10 run, Michael Goodman there in 8th. Now he came in, I believe, was 19 points behind the cut line. He, I think, still is going to probably need, if not a win, a top 5 next week at Daytona, but at least makes it a little bit more plausible to mathematically maybe make his way in, especially since we had Ethan Reasoner get caught up in that late wreck. Same for Rucker. Mm-hmm. You had Rishav Kozla have his struggles today, so it at least puts him, I think, still points-wise in the conversation for a playoff spot.
And I'm not sure if you mentioned it earlier, but Stephen McGough bringing home 7th place. That's a good, solid finish for the race that he had. He was caught up in a little bit of trouble. He was kind of running at the back the majority of the race. Bringing home 7th place here, that's a good points day. That's what he needed. Now he's got to go into Daytona, race aggressively, but at the same time not take too many risks, and he should be good looking into the postseason.
A look here at the rest of the finishing results and a couple of names that kind of pop out at me. 12th place, Vincent Isabella. He was 15 points behind the cut line. Where is this going to put him going into Daytona? Jared Rexing. He came into this race 53 points to the good. He's going to leave with a 17th place finish. I guess he's in an okay situation going into Daytona. Don't know if he's going to gain or lose points on that cut line, but I think he might be all right.
Yeah, he'll definitely lose some of that. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, I think he'll definitely lose a little bit of that gap that he's built for himself, that 53-point gap, but he should still be pretty comfortable next week at Daytona, to take it pretty conservatively.
The guys that I would be a little bit worried about right now, 19th place finisher Ethan Reasoner got caught up in that wreck. Rishav Kozla, he is 20th. He ended up finishing in 20th place, and he came into this race 5 points to the good. I'd be a little bit worried if I were those two guys, especially with the fact that Vincent Isabella had a pretty good run. Michael Goodman had a top 10. Dallas Myhand had a good run. Points are going to be really, really close amongst those guys heading into the wild card race of Daytona. You look on down through the remainder of the finishing results. Damian Leniger came into this race mathematically eligible to get into the playoffs here today. 29th. He's going to go into Daytona in a must-win situation. And you look on down through the remainder of the finishing results for this, and we had, I believe it was a total of 30 cars in this race from the green flag on. So let's take a look here at the top 10. We're going to interview in just a moment the race winner. I believe that is the only driver we currently have on standby. We'll get him in here in a moment. We lost Logan for a brief moment. He's back.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what was going on here.
You are perfectly fine. All right, so let's bring in Tate Lytle and find out some thoughts from the race winner. Tate, man, you came into this race, according to the live playoff standings, the 14th driver, right on the cut line. You qualified on the pole, dominated this race. But on that last green, white checkered, you had the 66 on your back bumper. What was going through your head?
Praying for a caution, because I don't think there's any way I could have held him off on that last lap, because he had tires. But I knew if I would have pitted when they pitted, they all would have stayed out. And I wouldn't have won. So I knew that was my only option, and I won't be here next week, so it's nice to be able to lock myself into the playoffs and get it done there.
Especially going into a track like Daytona as well, one of those kind of wild card tracks. We saw how the older tires just didn't seem to be able to stand up to the newer tires. And with you being out front as often as you were, how difficult was it to be able to kind of look in your rearview mirror and figure out, okay, are these guys going to pit and leave me out to dry? Am I going to come to pit road and they're going to stay out and I'm going to lose track position? I mean, that kind of a mental chess game, how difficult is it?
I mean, I tried pitting less than everyone else just because I figured if I could, with how many cautions there were, if I could just get the jump on the field, I could get out front and pull away while they were battling. And then by the time they got to me, their tires were worn off and I could hold them off. So, yeah, it was definitely a weird strategy race just because I knew with that last caution, if I stayed out like I did, they would all pit. And if I would have pitted, I probably would have came out in 12th just because 10 people would have stayed out. But that is how it is.
We were talking about with 7 laps to go when that late caution came out, how you probably were in your car just thinking, why was that why did that come out? Why did that have to happen? You're probably hoping for it to go green the rest of the way. So what kind of a strategy were you formulating knowing that it was probably going to be a green, white checker? We know you took that outside line for the restart, which we weren't even really thinking about until you did. And we're thinking, wow, that was genius. Did you have any further game plan besides that?
No. As soon as I saw the 13 spin his tires or whatever he did, I knew it was going to be tough because I knew Ryan had 2 tires on. And I was hoping I could pin him down behind the 13 or at least make him take it 3 wide to get to second, and I could get 5 or 6 tenths and try to make that work for the last lap and a half. But he got by, and he probably would have – I don't know if he would have cleared me in one, but we probably would have either wrecked or he would have passed me in 1 and 2. So I'm glad the caution came out when it did.
A truly dominating performance here at Michigan for you. Cap it off with the victory, going coast to coast, pole to win. Want to give you the opportunity here. It's, I believe, the first time we've interviewed you in Victory Lane this season, and we're going to give you the opportunity now, give you the mic, and give you the opportunity to give any shout out you want to, any thanks you want to give for the victory.
Yeah, just thanks to Chad for putting on the league and putting on 90 Motorsport, which is who I drive for. So just all around thanks to Chad and everybody on the 90 Motorsport team. And you guys for coming out and doing what you do.
It's our pleasure. So 7th different winner on the season, and you go into Daytona knowing you're locked into the playoffs. You're going to be one of the 14 to battle for the championship. Want to wish you luck with that.
Thanks, man. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, so that is race winner Tate Lytle. I do not believe we have either Ryan Lutz or Chad Frankenfield on standby for interviews, so I believe we are going to wrap this up. So, Logan, your first time here in the commentator's booth for Flatout Racing Network. Michigan did not disappoint.
No, I absolutely, especially that finish. That was I really wish we could have had another go at it, at another restart there. But that run to the line was phenomenal. It certainly didn't disappoint. It was an honor to be up here commentating this one with you. Hopefully, it wasn't too scuffed. I know we stepped over each other a couple of times. That's my fault. There had some technical difficulties and such, but that was a great race to watch and a great race to commentate up here with you.
Absolutely. It was great to have you here with me here tonight. An exciting race, an exciting finish as well, and playoff implications as well. When we get closer and closer to the end of the regular season, we always seem to have those guys that pop out at the last minute, make a statement, say, hey, I deserve to be in this playoffs as well. And we head next week to Daytona. Right now, in terms of positions to get in via points, I would say there's maybe 3 spots up for grabs with Tate Lytle's victory here tonight. And I think there's maybe about 5 or 6 drivers that could get in via points. We could still have a last minute winner. It's Daytona. It's a wild card race. It's a crapshoot. You never know who's going to be the leader when we get to the checkered flag. So a lot's going to be on the line for those drivers. I think the racing is going to be incredible. And hopefully you guys will be tuning in next Monday for that as well. Also, don't forget, this coming Friday, 7 o'clock, we got the Elite Racing League Indianapolis 500 as well. We're running the whole distance. If the qualifying was anything to go by, we are in for a really exciting race package and a really exciting race overall. But once more, Logan, thank you so much for joining me here tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. That was a blast.
So we will see you guys next Monday. We go to Daytona International Speedway for the regular season finale. Until then, he's been Logan Breaky, I've been Seth Cole, and we will see you guys next week.